catchy, isn't it? It's a little Islamic, Muslim, Arab-based music. Obviously, I'm doing my presentation on Islamic culture and an Islamic mosque. Um, to start, I went to the Islamic Center in Bettendorf, Iowa. Um, Went through a tour there, and I'm going to go through what I saw there, the people that I encountered there, what I thought, just the overall experience of it. So to get started, my initial reaction of the mosque was rather unique. I've only driven by it, several thousand times over my life in the past few years since it's been there, I guess. Um, Not knowing what it is really and what was in store there. Um, from Kimberly Road, my first perspective of it is it looks like a house with a huge building attached to the back of it, and they recently built that, I think, back in maybe 2008, 2009, somewhere in there maybe. They actually built that with their own money that was accrued through donations and everything from members of the organization. Um, Walking into the mosque, you walk into the door, and you're surrounded by the huge arches that are, so apparent in Muslim culture and Muslim pictures and mosque pictures all over the internet. Um, Other than that, though, there is not a whole lot of decoration anywhere throughout the mosque. We went up the stairs. We walked into the massive prayer room, which it's a huge room and it's totally carpeted. And my first thought was, where's all the chairs? Obviously, I know from being in Afghanistan and dealing with Muslim culture on a first-hand basis, they don't use chairs for a significant amount. They just don't. They'd rather sit on their knees or just stand. But for some odd reason, walking in this huge room, there's just nothing in it. Um, and looking at the floor, there's just patterns of rugs almost. That's how I can best describe it. And it was really soft and super comfy. Obviously, not knowing it at the time, but looking back, it's for kneeling when they kneel towards Mecca. Um, which is in the direction east. Typically, I mean, it could be southeast, east, depending on where you're at, but you're always facing towards Mecca. Um, Looking around, there was nothing on the walls other than a clock that showed all the prayer times and how the prayer times evolve through through a cycle of time. It's not on a calendar year; it's all based off time, and I believe it's off lunar time as well, or sun, excuse me, solar. Um, we went as I was being guided through the mosque. We went to this. There's a side house over on the other side, and from there was a small group of people that were getting ready to have prayer inside this smaller mosque, which was actually their older mosque. Um, they lined up. I sat in the back. They started to pray. I There was a leader that somewhat led the prayer, but I don't see him as a priest or as a pastor or anything like that. He was not preaching towards the group. He was not conducting a service. He was simply leading the service. Um, from that, they kind of went through a cadence of prayers. But keep this in mind. I was so engulfed in this culture for a period of my life that I just never really understood what their prayer was and how they prayed. So going back though, they had a cadence of prayers that they all went through together in somewhat of a sequence, and then from there they prayed on their own, and they prayed for what seemed, I think it was around 20-25 minutes. They prayed alone, but the thing I must emphasize was the amount of concentration that was involved in this prayer. There was kids, young children running off to the side they're just kids, so I mean they're just doing whatever, kind of whatever kids do. But they were running and making noise. But these men did not. It did not faze them whatsoever. And that leads me into my next segment of the speech, and that the men prayed alone. Women were not involved in the prayer whatsoever. The women had their own area which they prayed. There was no men. I mean, there's a total separation between men and women involved in the Muslim church, which, from what I understand in the Muslim culture, not from Afghanistan or anything from that standpoint, but just as an overall Muslim culture, they are really committed to equality. And I think the Muslim culture actually has more rights for women and are just more solidly based on their equal rights. And it just doesn't make sense why they separate each other, but yet they're very equal. They hold each other very equally. Um, it's just, I guess, catch-22. I have to look into it more, but from that standpoint. Um, but once the service was done or the prayer time was done, everyone was very very welcoming as to who I was and what I was doing there. Um, they asked if I had ever been exposed to Muslim culture before, and I said yes, and that's um, which I really did not want to do because I was afraid they were going to judge me for who I was or what I had done. But they weren't. They understood what was going on because they too are Americans. They live in America and they totally understand what's going on. And from the standpoint of me, um, being in Afghanistan, being to this mosque and looking at everything, I think the Muslim people have kind of come under a blanket of welcoming thoughts and statements, and it's too bad because I think the Muslim culture really condones support, strength, and unity through the community and through one, and um, they are great people. So with that, I hope you learned something. I hope you learned a little bit about the Muslim culture. If you ever have a chance, swing by the Islamic Center in Bettendorf, Iowa, and have a look at it. Maybe it might come of something. Maybe you might become Muslim. It's hard to say. Thank you for your time.